wọ̀kúwọ́kú lọ́rọ̀rùn pẹ̀sẹ̀ láti kéde nílé akéde tọ̀yọ́ ni ó nílò kó ṣe mọ́ dára rẹ̀ láàmú sọpọ̀ òun wọkọ̀ bọ̀ wá sílé akéde lóríta Basọ̀rún nílùú Ìbàdàn mọ́ pàápàá jùlọ láti ṣe ìkéde yẹn polówó ọjà yẹn tàbí fi ń tọ́tọ́ tó sì yẹ tó àwọn aráàlú létí bóyá nípa àpàdé nípa àsọjí àbí nǹkan kan àbómi ìtẹ́balẹ̀ fẹ́ ṣe ẹ torí agbègbè àgbáyé kẹ́ẹ̀nà tẹ́ fẹ́ ṣe hàn wá 09158703300 lórí agbègbè kí ló ń ṣẹlẹ̀ WhatsApp nọ́mbà ìkànnà mọ̀ ní ọ̀rọ̀rùn pẹ̀sẹ̀ stress free courtesy BCOS. You don't have to stress yourself coming down to Ile Akede Orita Basọ̀rún Ìbàdàn again to make that announcement or place that advert. Book online, personal paid announcements, obituaries, or in memoriam, annual conventions, workshops, crusades, social diaries, inter-house sport competitions, musical shows or concerts, and other promotions. Very simple. Go online to book for transmission on BCOS radio channels or BCOS TV, or simply call 091 5870 3300 or WhatsApp on the same number 091 5870 3300. BCOS, a media giant in a class of its own.
Thanks for joining us on this morning's edition of AM120. My name is Abioyi Ayonde. It's indeed the first edition of the program in the month of February. And I pray that the month of February will be a good one for you and I. We are still in the anniversary mood, talking about the 50th anniversary celebration of Oyo State. The anniversary celebration is still in the air, and all the newspapers here we have here this morning, they all report one thing or the other about the anniversary celebration. We begin this morning's edition of AM120 with stories from the newspapers. We'll begin with the front page picture of the Nigerian Tribune, talking about the anniversary celebration, where we have the pictures of the Labour Party presidential candidate. Vows to recover all diverted local government funds, the state's oversight legislative power over local governments. on free meters. BCOS defy minister's directive, focus on Band A customers. Well, that's a big one, and concern over huge cash outside the banking system despite surge in digital transactions. And that's another one coming from the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. Talking about oil spill, Ijaw youths threatening to shut down oil facilities and oil discovery at Eba. Ogun government reaffirms jurisdiction, cites legal historical evidence. And Oyo National Park Office, police arrest 7 suspects. My team will continue where I stopped in 2027. And that one is coming from Engineer Makinde. And as Peter Obi Lord's governor for uplift of state, and Labour Party holds congresses in March, Oti Usman urge Abure others to sheath swords, seek reconciliation. Party wishes Obi well in ADC. Your victory is temporary. Abure's camp replies. That story is coming from the Nigerian Tribune. I'm talking about the inside stories of the Nigerian Tribune. Oyo at 50, my team will continue where I stopped in 2027, says Makinde, as Peter Obi Lord's governor for uplift of states. And Oyo, an oil spill. Ijaw youths threatening to shut down oil facilities. That one is coming from page 3 of the Nigerian Tribune. Weight loss jabs, life-threatening side effect discovered. The federal government also new agreement. Anxiety as varsity lecturers await implementation. If you are interested in that story, you can turn to page 3 of the Nigerian Tribune. Bandits set police headquarters church ablaze, kidnap NUT chair and family in Niger. The story is taken from page 4 of the Nigerian Tribune. On police arrest 7 suspects in connection with attack on Old Oyo National Park, and concern over huge cash outside banking system despite surge in digital transactions. That one is coming from the business and economy page of the Nigerian Tribune. And talking about free meters, BCOS defy minister's directive, focus on Band A customers. Another one says Oyo Taraba, others named the profitable sugar production sites as NSDC, NGF partner to boost industrial development. If you're interested in that story, you can turn to the business and economy page of the Nigerian Tribune. I'm still reading from the same page. Land Use Allocation Committee, 41.3 trillion naira real estate sector at risk as town planners others tackle OSGOF. And reactions at banks that write off bad loans from past years hit profitability. If you're interested, you can check the business and economy page of the Nigerian Tribune. And Nigeria's metering gap, federal government targets procurement of 10 million meters in 5 years. Well, Nigerians are still waiting to see the implementation of this. And turning to the editorial page of the Nigerian Tribune, the Anambra market issue. That is the story. That is the theme of the editorial page of the Nigerian Tribune. If you're interested, you can turn to the editorial page of the Nigerian Tribune. And talking about tax and taxation, foreign employers no longer automatically taxable in Nigeria for remote workers, and explaining Nigerian tax onboard office. For more on the story, you can check the tax and taxation page of the Nigerian Tribune. And 27 states move to domesticate harmonized taxes, levies act. The story is taken from the tax and taxation page of the Nigerian Tribune. Still flipping through the newspaper for more stories. Rededicate your time, resources to God's service. Methodist Bishop charges tsunami. And another one says West African leaders agree on permanent regional security framework. And that story is taken from page 24 of the Nigerian Tribune. And to some sports stories from the sports page of the Nigerian Tribune. Lagos Salami Stadium pitch undergoing repair, says 3SC management. Blames condition on dry season. And the story is taken from the sports page of the Nigerian Tribune. And 32 teams battle for Obafemi and HID Awolowo Memorial Kids in Lagos. That story is taken from the Nigerian Tribune, from the sports page of the Nigerian Tribune. And that ends the story from the Nigerian Tribune. We quickly take a short commercial break before we go on with the program. Please don't go away.
Hero 3-in-1 Milky and Creamy is truly milky and contains calcium. So, no need to add milk for that rich, creamy cup, which helps to nourish your kids.
Broadcasting Corporation of Oyo State, BCOS. We are still on newspapers review. I also have the Guardian newspaper, and I'll take the lead story of the Guardian newspaper. Nigerians turn to survivor businesses. Businesses' formula jobs dry up. Well, the story is taken from the front page of the Guardian newspaper. In 2027, Atiku holds talks with ADC leaders amidst Obi Kwakwanso alliance rumor, and investors and farmers lament as a Greek sector loses 5 trillion naira in 2 years. If you're interested, you can check the front page of the Guardian newspaper. And reactive standby force against Sahel threats, Tinubu tells ECOWAS. And still reading from the Guardian newspaper. Header has US to sanction Nigerians linked to security fronts diversion, and terrorists raise a church police station in Niger. Osun Assembly vows to recover diverted local government funds, and anxiety as Soludo reopens Onitsha market. If you're interested in those stories, you can turn to the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Still reading from the Guardian newspaper. Federal government arraigns perpetrators of Benue killings today, and Tinubu salutes Anikulapo Kuti's lifetime legacy. Well, that one is a big one from the from page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. And Obi faults Tinubu on multiple foreign trips, 2027 agenda, and blames politicians for woes. Lord's Makede's strikes in Oyo. Awolowo's political spirit alive in Tinubu's governance, says Atoyebi. The story is taken from page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. And another one says, House defends a delay in passage of Electoral Act Amendment Bill. Turning to page 4 of the newspaper, how lingering medical rivalry jeopardizes teamwork, patient safety. It's an article. If you want more or that write-up, you can check the Guardian newspaper. And Center urges Tinubu to make visa access part of bilateral deals, as expert underscores rules towards unlocking steer economy. Story is taken from page 5 of the Guardian newspaper. Still reading from the Guardian newspaper, Nigerians turn to survivor businesses as former jobs dry up. Well, if you You want to know how Nigerians are surviving right now? Well, you can turn to page 6 of the newspaper. Maybe you too, you can take a cue from that. And 2027, Atiku holds talk with APC leaders amidst Obi Kwakwanso alliance rumor and oil discovery. Ogun government reaffirms jurisdiction over Eba Island, cites legal historical evidences. And Lagos government here lifted 200 Christians intending pilgrims for pilgrimage. That story is taken from the Guardian newspaper on page 7. We quickly take another break to take some commercials. Please don't go away.
TerraCube, unwrap joy, unleash taste.
Well, we are still on AM120 on the Broadcasting Corporation of Oyo State, still on the review of newspapers. I still have the Guardian newspaper with me, who takes control of LP. As party plans a Congress's convention, Barbara was governor to PDP. The story is taken from page 8 of the newspaper. And anxiety as Solido reopens Onitsha market. If you're interested in that story, you can check the page 8 of the Guardian newspaper. And terrorists erase church police station in Niger. Investors, farmers lament as agri sector loses 5 trillion naira in 2 years. The story is reported by the Guardian newspaper on page 9. Where to the metro section of the newspaper, police arrest 9 suspects over kidnapping, cultism, robbery in Edo. Another one says a group supports a police with surveillance tower in Lagos. And Zamfara Police Command arrests 21 over illegal mining in 2 councils, and police vows tough sanction against attack in Delta. Ondo community oppose move to install rival monarchs, and cargo agents petition IGP others over planned demolition at NMA. If you're interested in those stories, you can check the Metro section. And for more stories from the Metro section, NDLA busts a cocaine carrier at MMIA, seizes over 6 tons of drugs nationwide. A Senate petitioned as diaspora Nigerians allege loss of 18 hectares to coastal highway. The story is taken from the Guardian newspaper. Let's quickly take some sports stories before calling it a wrap. From the Guardian sports page, Atletico Madrid hijack Lookman from Fenerbahce, and Super Eagles stars set for medicals in Spain, where we say congratulations to our dear superstar, Lookman, and we wish him the best in his future endeavor. And still reading from the sports page of the Guardian newspaper, British body LSSC partner to improve cycling in Lagos. Kingsley Ibe knocks off Miller's hair, loses by split decision. The story is taken by the Guardian Sport. Well, with that story, we wrap it up on today's edition of the review of newspapers available here this morning. We quickly take a short break before continuing the program. Please don't go away. You're welcome back to AM120, and this is our interview segment. This morning, we shall be looking at federal government's free prepaid meters amidst the incessant national grid collapses, and that's the topic of our discussion this morning. You recall that the national power grid collapsed again on Tuesday, the second time in 4 days, and this marks the second grid collapse in January 2026, and the third in less than a month. The grid previously collapsed on December 29, 2025, and on Friday, January 23, 2026, before the latest incident on Thursday. Recall that the grid collapsed almost monthly in 2024, but the situation improved in 2025 when only 2 major collapses were recorded. However, experiencing 2 incidents in 4 days and 3 in less than a month signals a worrying trend to stakeholders in the Nigerian electricity supply industry. And that's why we are taking a look at this critical subject matter. And we have an expert in the studio this morning that will be shedding light on the issues surrounding talking about our discussion this morning. And I have with me this morning the retired principal manager of IBEDC. I'm talking about Engineer Kaudi Moyo Sadi. You are welcome onto the program, sir.
Thank you very much.
The scenario I've just painted, it's causing a lot of embarrassment to the nation. Incessant collapse of our grids. What's your take about this? You work in the sector for some time.
First and foremost, many people always say power supply collapsing as if it's total, but most of the time,
As if it's total.
as if it is total.
So is
that
it on
there is no light in the
Is
entire
it
nation?
Is it until it's total that people should begin to talk?
No. I said the time they hear of a system collapse, so they always think that means that there is no supply in the entire nation.
Okay.
But there are times that we do have what they call partial collapse. So like an area, a region may be cut off.
Do we have such?
Yes, it do happen like
what
that.
I'm saying is, do we have such experience in other climate in the foreign land? Do you have such?
Now, partial collapse could occur, but that does not mean that it should be happening incessantly.
That is what.
What worries.
That's the concern of Nigerians now.
Yes, I'm just saying that. But so many things can be responsible for system collapse. So many things can be responsible for it. If we talk about the technicality, there could be a relay malfunctioning. Then there could be, like in this area, this time now that we are in dry season, the hydro is no longer working because it has what we are getting from hydro is very, very minimal because of level of water. So we depend on thermal, that is gas firing power stations. And you know, the gas supply too is another problem.
Now let's begin to take it one by one. You were talking about dry season. At this stage of our national development, should we be talking about, dry season, rainy season? They've seen they have it in other climes, and they do have a constant electricity supply. You are talking about hydro supply, whatever. Why should we have this problem again and again?
Because of the fact that in most cases they have over relied on hydro. When there is no gas, most times we dependent on that hydro. But they may have used the water below the normal level that can sustain them throughout the year. And when there is dry season of this nature, the hydro power station cannot produce electricity most of the time. It has a minimum level that it can produce power. But at that time, you rely on thermal, that is the gas-fired power station that are available in the southern parts of Nigeria. So, and there was even a time when there was gas problem, by taking gas to most of these power stations. That was the time that we hardly had supply for more than 1 hour in a day. So 1 hour, 2 hours, except those ones that are on band here or something, that they still give priority. Even those ones too are affected until they restore gas to thermal stations.
Now let's look at the foundation of our national grid. Do you think it is built on a solid foundation? Is that the kind of things that we still have all over the world right now?
Yeah, there is nothing wrong in having one grid. Because as we have one grid, if there is better coordination between what we call, because the people that run these things will have generation, that's where they generate power. We have transmission that conveys the power to where it's going to be used. And we have disco, where they distribute this power to various houses and industries. Then if we are running national grid, there should be a better coordination amongst them. And recently they have introduced independent system operation. The people that monitors what comes from power. What are they lifting? What are the transmission lifting from power station to distribution, that is the disco. So with all these things, if there is a better coordination among them, there is possibility to reduce the power, incessant power collapsing. If there is no coordination, it can lead to anything. And apart from that, Nigeria still depends mainly on manual operation of all these things, because in a civilized nation, there is what we call SCADA. SCADA is this supervisory control data acquisition. So this, when they use this, I understand they are trying to bring it back to the operations. So, and then it's as at that time, that's technology that they now use. It is the SCADA that will monitor the systems, the lines that are available, the power stations that are available. Everybody will have, the operators will have known what is available and what is not available, and it will be changing.
Now, you are talking about better coordination, but some people are saying that it goes beyond that. I mean, what about the archaic equipment that we are using? Will you say that the equipment that are being used are up to standard? Are there no measure in which can regulate this incessant trouble?
For my own understanding, my thinking is that if there had been a better coordination between the transmission, that is, and GENCO, that is generation, and distribution. But in terms there are times when there is sudden rejection of load, and it could occur from the disco, it could be from generation. Maybe one of the generators that are carrying heavy load suddenly go off. It's an automatic thing. So definitely when it's carrying too much load, it will affect the system stability. And in most cases, that is what leads to system collapse.
Now you're still talking about this better coordination. I mean, 18 times. This thing happened 18 times in 3 years. I mean, the grid had collapsed 18 times in 3 years. I mean, when do you think this, talking about the last 3 years, when do you think that this coordination will not exist?
With what they are saying now, like I told you, if they had, I'm not aware whether it has been given out to contractor, but I was told that SCADA is being considered. And that
is SCADA an upgrade? Is it an upgrade?
SCADA is the one that will monitor what happens between all of them.
So that's
giving control.
It's a kind of
technology.
An upgrade of
an
the
upgrade of the grid. The kind of an upgrade of the grid, because the SCADA will be able to monitor what goes on among all of them.
So they have been operating without any SCADA. What has been the checks and balances in that?
The control center.
They have been using
manually. They will phone to know what is going to be available, what we are going to do this, what is likely to have available, which one is available. And if there is partial or total collapse, they still have to go back and say, okay, availability, where are we going to get power from? So how do we monitor send it out to consumers? So that when we send it out to consumers, then consumers, how many of them can we pick at this time, now that we have limited amount of energy coming from power stations? So they will get in touch with all the power stations to know what is available at their end.
Let's talk about the relays also. It has not been changed for some time now.
Relay?
Yes.
Yes, like I told you too, there are times that when there is an emergency, that the relay is supposed to see it and send a signal for a particular aspect of the grid to go off. If that one fails to occur, it can lead to system collapse. So then this relay, I think that the relays are still functioning, but it is part of relay coordination. It could be relay coordination that made it not to see that there is need for it to trigger off a particular section of the grid at a particular time.
So let's now take a look at this issue of gas constraint. I mean, this nation is a gas producing country, and we're still having a gas constraint. How do you think that this can be addressed? Talking about the issue of gas constraint, but you take this question after this commercial break. We could take a short break before continuing with the program. Please don't go away.
TerraCube, unwrap joy, unleash taste. Win up to 5 million naira and other exciting prizes in the Golden Morn Golden Hunt promo. Buy any 30 gram or 45 gram promo pack. Look inside for a unique code. Dial *8011*1#. Follow the prompts to enter your unique code to win big. Promo ends April 15th, 2026. Golden Morn. Make every day golden.
On to AM120 on the Broadcasting Corporation of Oyo State, BCOS. The topic is federal government's free prepaid meters amid incessant national grid collapse. And in the studio this morning, we have Engineer Kayode Moyosade. You are talking about the issue of gas constraints. And I was asking, why should we have gas constraints in a country producing gas?
Well, I'm not directly involved in the production of gas, but there are times when they are supposed to send gas to thermal stations that they will be having problem, maybe as a result of vandalization or as a result of one technical hitch or the other. So that is, it is not that the gas are not available from refineries where these gas are being produced. So I cannot talk much about why we are having difficulties and why we are having challenges in getting gas to our power stations. And I think it's supposed to be ordered on the government policy.
Now, in your own opinion, how do you think that this can be addressed, the issue of gas constraint? What do you think government should do?
That should be at the ministry level. We have a ministry of petroleum, we have gas, and we have, so there are supposed to be an agreement, because this is an embarrassment for the whole nation, that because of lack of gas, we cannot power this nation. So I have the feeling that there should be a better coordination among them, so that and if that, but should there be any sudden reason why gas cannot get to power stations, definitely we are going to be affected by the level of generation that we are going to have and the amount of power that is going to be available on the grid. And that is what's responsible for load shedding most of the time. That's what's responsible for load shedding most of the time. But the gas, availability of gas, I think government needs to do more about it. It's government that needs to do more about it, so that we have a Minister of State for gas. And the Minister of State for gas and that of power supposed to know how gas will be available to most of these power stations.
Okay, and let's look at the state government. are being granted the power even to have their own generation, transmission, and distribution of electricity. I mean, now, even Oyo State is also producing a measure of electricity, I mean, to some areas, even in the city. But why do you think that some state governments are still reluctant, I mean, to do this, to implement it in their states?
It depends on the leadership. You see, because our own governor in Oyo State felt that there is need for him to provide electricity. But what they are producing is so mega that not many people even know that they have such a thing in Oyo State.
Remember the governor was saying it maybe yesterday that more poles will be erected, I mean, to supply more areas with this electricity.
Oh, well, I don't know the plan that he has to increase from what they have presently. But I know that they have solar powered system that gives supply to some areas, specific areas in Ibadan, most especially government offices.
So why are other states, I mean, reluctant to do this?
They may have to imbibe. They may have to imbibe it at a later time. But for now, some people used to waste time. But if they feel that there is need for it, I'm sure majority of them still have to buy into it.
If they feel that there is a need for it, is there no need for it?
I'm limited to your state here, so I don't know what happens in some other states.
Talking about Akwa Ibom, we learned that Akwa Ibom has already implemented it in the state.
But we don't know whether that one is independent or is tied to national grid. Because there are power stations all over the places that are tied to national grid. And once they are tied to national grid, it's affected with what we are talking about the national grid. So most of the power stations are tied to the grid.
Now let's take a look at other issues.
Yeah.
Some people say that corruption is the bane of the system that we have. And recently, Serap sued the Ministry of Power over missing and diversion of 120 billion naira in public funds from the coffers of the ministry. Let's take a look at corruption generally.
Talking about corruption in Nigeria.
Not in Nigeria, in that sector.
Okay.
In that sector.
All over.
In that sector.
In that sector. Since I am not directly involved, it will be difficult for me to pinpoint. But what I'm trying to let you know is that corruption is something that occurs everywhere in Nigeria. Because look at the number of people that have, look at the former AGF, Attorney General of the Federation. Look at what they're talking about. Look at
Attorney General of the Federation.
Attorney General of the Federation, the former CBN governor.
Are you talking about Chibola Ige?
No, I'm talking about Malami.
Okay.
Is he not supposed to be the one that will prosecute people? But look at the type of corruption and the amount that he has diverted. Look at the property they say he forfeited.
Now let's talk about this sector.
What
areas, in which areas do you think that they can, maybe minimize corruption or they can guard against it?
What I'm saying that
you have been in the system before. You cannot say that you have not identified one particular area which government can block. Think about that.
If government provided fund for any upgrading, it has to be.
Are you saying that government is not providing fund for upgrading?
No, I wouldn't know their budgets. But I think they are trying with what we read in papers. But I don't have a direct link as to how much was actually released So, but if you are expecting to do certain things, upgrading of the system, you have to make sure that it's properly monitored. If it is not done, the government is supposed to know. And if it is done, then you know that the project which funds are being released are carried out. So it is at that level that you know whether somebody has diverted that money or he has not diverted it.
Now, you are talking about the monitoring.
Yes, monitoring of projects.
Of most projects.
Yes.
Are you saying the government is not doing enough in that regard?
If they are doing enough, then it is politicians that you blame for that. Because I'm sure if the politician does not divert the money and the money is available as to what it's being released for, I think it will not affect the system itself. Because most of what they are using has been there for a very long time. They have been there for a very long time. So some of them are already obsolete. But, and apart from that one, you know, the grid capacity has been up. But the generation and power availability has never gone beyond the 5 megawatts. Whereas the transmission capacity is now between 9 and 12 megawatts. But most times, the actual capacity that are available now, is not up to 5 megawatts.
And should that be the case?
It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. Since we can take more, then, you know, anytime we are able to get to 5, 6, everybody will have power. There was a time we were having power. Most of the time, at least, up to 16 hours, until suddenly the thing went bad again. So there is need for us to see how the stability can happen on the network.
Now, the common man seems to be helpless in this situation. How do you think that Nigerians, can even ask for their rights? How do you think that Nigerians can, hold the federal government, the TCN, as well as GENCOs and DISCOs, responsible and accountable for both the great collapse?
There's nothing anybody can do rather than to cry out that what is happening in Nigeria is not what is expected, and that government should look more into it and see how we can have a stable power supply in the country.
So what reforms do you think should be carried out by the federal government? In the immediate one, they will think we transform the system.
It's like what we have said, they work more on how gas gets to power stations, so that, and at the same time, the people that are responsible for monitoring of our gas pipelines and be sure that nobody goes there to tamper with it. And there could be some saboteurs. But the government is supposed to be able to identify the saboteurs that are causing vandalism on most of these power system equipment.
Now, talking about these saboteurs, do you think government is doing enough to deal with these saboteurs? Or you think that
they need to be identified? And
do you think the government is doing enough in this regard, whether government is really doing enough?
They are doing something, but what they are doing may not be enough, like we said. What they are doing may not be enough. They still need to focus their attention on this, since it has become a national embarrassment that most times there will be system collapse as a result of not having this and not having enough power generation.
Now, let's look at the time when the privatization of the electricity sector, in Nigeria. You recall that the electricity sector, the Power Sector Reform Act of 2000 2005. You recall that sector, the Reform Act of 2005. The generation companies, they were sold to private companies, and the distribution companies also, sector also, they were also sold, even to private sector. But the transmission companies were left in the hands of government. And people say that's the bane, that's the problem right now, that the transmission also should also have been sold, so have been privatized, so that
because of the security risk is part of why the transmission was not sold.
So in your own opinion, the transmission sector shouldn't have been sold?
At least it was supposed to have gotten to a level that we'll be able to be sure that the transmission company, if transmission company is sold, anybody that has anything to do against government can use it as a weapon.
That is where people say the rot comes from. That's where they say the rot comes from.
No, it's not.
Because let me explain.
Okay.
That the rot comes from, because transmission sector needs a lot of money, and private sector should bring in the money. They should bring in their money. You know, there are issues, so many issues confronting the government, talking about corruption. Talking about corruption and other things. Even government with its own budget cannot address, may not be able to address, the issue. But when you bring in other people in the private sector to bring in their money, they will look after this thing very well. Look at all these the telecommunication industries. It's also a sensitive one. It's the one that the president uses and so on. They left it in the hand of private companies, and it's working. So to now say everything, this thing is sensitive, they are operating it in other climb. They put it in the hand of, it's like it's an old idea. So do you still think that government should continue to retain this critical sector?
Yeah, but first and foremost, when the Gencos were privatized and Discos were privatized, you can notice that most of the people that take over, instead of injecting money to bring about the stability, they were not improving on what they made. They are only using what is available.
And that's why.
And then that one does not require much capital, unlike transit. By the time if they developed the transmission to a level, then it can now be sold.
Let me quickly cut in. That's why many people are complaining that the foundation of this privatization was not good enough. That the right sector, the right private entities were not giving. They were not giving.
Yeah,
and because they were, most of them were not financially buoyant enough.
And they have to have checked all those indices before they were sold to them. Because if they had injected money into the discos, what we are talking about would have been better than what we are facing. Because when it was being run by government, it was even better than what is happening right now. It's better because government still provide money, provide fund. Most of what happens now, majority of the consumers are the one buying transformers. If they want to have supply, they still depend on the old equipment that are being used before privatization. Majority. So, and I think it will be better. And that's why we cannot consider transmission. And if somebody just take over transmission, for instance, what are we seeing? it will be worse. Because they may not, if they didn't give it to a good hand that has the capacity to run it and to be able to improve on the infrastructure. Because infrastructure development is very, very important. And I think it's still better for it to be in the hand of government, like I told you.
So, sorry, I have to cut you short. We take another break to take some commercials. Please don't go away.
Milo 3-in-1 Milky and Creamy is truly milky and contains calcium. So, no need to add milk for that rich, creamy cup, which helps to nourish your kids.
We are still on AM120. Engineer Moyosade is still here with us.
Moyosade, please.
Moyosade is still here with us this morning, and he has been talking about issues concerning the national grid, incessant problem in the national grid. Now, you are giving some explanation earlier.
Explanation is you are the one who asked me about why the transmission was not sold. And I told you because of security risk and apart from the fact that government might think that transmission company has not developed to a level.
Now let's look at the performance.
Where it can be handed over to a
Let's look at the performance of the BCOS.
Yeah.
Are they performing to the required level?
No, they are not. They are not. That's what I'm saying. That if those people who bought it had injected fund into the infrastructure development of the schools, then the people will have received more power in their homes, and there wouldn't have been any problem. But by the time they are just running it without improving on what they met on ground.
Well, before we go on this program, I want you to, what's your final take on this subject matter?
My own is that government should try as much as possible to look into that privatization and look at the people that are running it, because the people that are running it are not injecting enough fund to develop the infrastructure in this sector, because it's not, the power sector requires a lot of money, and we have to look at it at that level, and the government should provide enough money to be able to improve on the infrastructure so that there will be stability in the system.
Well, I want to say a very big thank you to our guest this morning, Engineer Kayode Moyosade. Is a retired principal manager